Welcome, everyone. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance, and you're on the Dr. Finance Live podcast. We got an incredible guest today, Shafaat Hashmi, folks. He's an international investor, entrepreneur, advertising guru. He's got a lot of cool stuff that he's an expert in. We want to talk about a lot of great things today. So, folks, stay tuned. We got a great episode up for you. Welcome, Shafaat. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Dr. Anthony, and I'm very well. Such a privilege and an honor to be at your amazing podcast and truly honored.
Thank you, Shafaat. Appreciate that. And Shafaat and I were just joking before we came on that in a real life setting, because we have a virtual setting here, Shafaat's smoking a cigarette, and I don't have to inhale it.
That's the best part, isn't it? You know, we still got some covers on smoke detectors, and I make sure I have the privilege to smoke in my office. Everybody knows that. We've been in this office for the last 10 years, and yeah, we're okay with it.
That's awesome. So Shafaat, before we get started, the format is basically we do a quick 30-second snapshot of yourself. You want to tell us about yourself, 30 seconds, like a bio, and then we're going to get into your actual story. And then I got about 20 questions after that. And maybe you can give us a book tour too, or a tour of your office.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. So in short, we have three core businesses. We have an investment firm, which is essentially working as a private equity firm, asset management company, venture capital, merger and acquisition, joint ventures, facilitating and enabling and preparing other companies for IPOs, pre-IPOs, etc. There's a financial advisory wing to it as well. We also lead investment rounds for startups, and obviously have strategic funding available for SMEs, metaverse, etc., etc. Our second business is a global advertising / go-to-market marketing consulting firm, which has 14 international offices, pretty spread out. Over 300 people work for us. We have been in business for the last 13 years. And we have served over and above 700 plus clients globally, all the way from a corner shop to airlines and banks. So we have worked across over and above 23 plus business sectors and verticals. And then the third company is based out of Silicon Valley, which is a tech firm. It's a very hush-hush kind of stuff that I'm doing. Which is essentially trying to correlate genetics with consumer preferences. So that's the project which is still going on. But yes, we do build apps. We do work on blockchain. We do have a team for AI, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we do in a nutshell.
Wow, that's incredible, Shafaat. So Shafaat, if you can break it down in like one sentence, how would you describe yourself? A serial entrepreneur?
No.
Serial investor, maybe, or?
A service leader, always there for good.
I love it. Thank you, Shafaat. All right, so Shafaat, we're going to get into your story. So Shafaat, we met on Clubhouse. Shafaat is also a major influencer on Clubhouse as well. And well, I'd love to get into your story. You're, as you said, global. You're headquartered there in Pakistan, but you got offices everywhere, pretty much. Dubai, United States.
We are headquartered in Dubai.
Oh, headquartered in Dubai.
Our advertising agency is headquartered in Dubai. Our investment firm is headquartered in Abu Dhabi. And then we have offices across the GCC, UK, Australia, and the United States, as well as in Pakistan.
I see. And you're in Pakistan right now, though, right?
Right now, I'm in Pakistan.
Okay. So Shafaat, let's take it back. Where were you originally born? And if you want to describe early life growing up there, maybe the first 10 years.
I'm born in Lahore, beautiful city, a city of fountains, city of lights, city of centuries old culture, and it's a renowned area when India and Pakistan were one country. It was renowned for education, and till date it's renowned for education. So that's where I was born. I'm born in a very special family and bloodline, which is the Hashemites. So as a Muslim. And a Muslim audience who might be listening to. So we have our entire bloodline and lineage intact, which goes to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, goes to all the way to Prophet Abraham. So it's quite a blessed family, spiritually uplifted. It's been a business family all this time. So yes, I wasn't probably born with a golden spoon, but surely I was born with a silver spoon.
Well, that's incredible. So you your first 10 years, you were, what can you describe the scene? And I apologize, you come from completely the other side of the planet here in Philadelphia, very different background. What was it? What was it like though? Did you grow up in a mansion? What did what was a typical day for you in maybe the first 10 years?
My first 10 years, typical day used to be beautiful. I remember my first day at school and returning home and telling my grandfather, grandma, and my mom that, you know what, it was so noisy, you know. And so my father worked in Pakistan Air Force. He was a fighter pilot and an Air Force veteran, very well decorated pilot. And so he used to be out flying, you know, or deputed across different cities in Pakistan, and later on got deputed in Saudi Arabia. So we happened to travel quite extensively during my childhood, but we were based in Lahore. My education wasn't disturbed. We would take vacations to see our dad. So the first 10 years were amazing. We spent a lot of time with my grandfather, my grandmother, and my mom, my both siblings, a brother and sister. And it's been very peaceful. So yeah, I was brought up in a mansion. I opened my eyes in a very big home. So until I was 5 or 6, I wasn't even allowed to go on the second level or the third level and those areas all by myself and all alone because you know it's so huge. And so yeah, I had a beautiful, beautiful childhood, lovely childhood.
That's incredible, Shafat. So, going into your teens, did you always have like a business mind at heart? Like, did you do a lot of business jobs, entrepreneurial jobs?
So you know, excellent question. Business has been running in our family. So when I was really young, 1990 December 15th, my grandfather passed away because of cancer, brain tumor, and my mom being the only daughter, so I'm talking about maternal grandfather, and my dad was the only gentleman, you know, in the family. So no brothers, no sisters of my mom. My mom was all alone. So my grandfather's business, etc., was taken care by my father, and my father brought me in. He took retirement from Air Force, and he said, "I need to run a business." I was very young. I used to sit next to him. I used to learn how he would deal, how he would trade, import export. We had a printing press back then. You know, we went into paints manufacturing. We invested into a textile company which was exporting towels. And those projects went well. Then we exited from there and we went into a few things. And I've been working with my dad at a very young age, which is literally when I was in grade 7 and grade 8. Um, I I made it full time right after my O levels, and while I was in my A levels, which is hires in the United States, or early 2 years of college, I was working full time with my dad.
So that's a big transition. I just want to step back because your dad's story is a part of your story. So he was a he was a veteran, an Air Force veteran. He flew planes for a living, pretty much for the Air Force. To go from that to a complete businessman was a big jump. Like how did that transition? Was that a big transition for him and you guys?
No, not at all. Because my paternal grandfather had a business as well. He was quite well established in textiles. So my father went into Air Force out of his passion
Oh, okay,
for running a home.
okay. Did you guys eventually do anything else with flying planes? Did that become a hobby? Because that skill set just doesn't go away. If you're flying planes, you have that special mentality, which most of the planet doesn't, which is most people are afraid of flying, let alone flying their own plane. So, did you guys still stay, maybe fly planes as a hobby after that, or?
No, I did. I wanted to be a pilot, but at the same time, I was scared of flying. I still am. And I suffer from chronic vertigo. due to which I cannot take flights for the last about 10 years that frequently as a healthy person would. So yes, it's a disability now with me that I have to pop quite a lot of pills before hopping into a plane. But at the same time, I did try a Cessna with my dad a couple of times, locally, and but nothing more than that. It wasn't really a hobby that we continued with.
Did you ever fly your own plane?
Yeah, well, I sat next to it and I tried a lot of simulators, but I never flew an airplane. I think I've been flying businesses and I've been able them to take off, make them grow, and also help entrepreneurs with landing large investments.
That's awesome. Thank you, Shafat. So Shafat, let's go back to your teens now. So when you're in your teenage years, maybe like 10 to 18, let's go up to 20. Um, Maybe pre-college. What was that like for you? If you want to maybe talk about those years, did you have any besides helping your dad? Was there any other miscellaneous hobbies or jobs or things that you were doing that you want to mention?
So right during my A levels, Pakistan's economy crashed. It was during 1998, and so there was an atomic test, nuclear test by India, which was followed by Pakistan. Pakistan got under sanctions. Our stock markets crashed. We were huge in stocks. We had three offices in the stock exchange, like really big. Big at a level that when I graduated, my dad gave me a Honda Civic as a birthday gift, right? So, and I remember back in those days, Gone in 60 Seconds was this movie, which was quite interesting. And I wanted to hop my Honda Civic with NOS with four-wheel disc brakes back then, which was kind of new. Wanted to bring in low-profile tires, had some skirts around it, just race around like a teenager. So you used to party a lot, you used to work a lot. I used to meet a lot of people. We've been very, very social. We always had people coming to our home, breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything end-to-end executed. And you got to show up with your dad, And then everything just vanished in thin air overnight. We were about negative 300x, 300%, or negative 3x in our below cap overnight. So
1998, you said, right?
yeah, 1998. So we literally had to get rid of most of our assets to fill the gap, and that was an eye opener for us that it's not hunky dory anymore, and you have to rebuild everything. And that was really the time when I became super serious with business, because I turned around to my dad and I was like, hey, we have a certain lifestyle and I can't compromise that lifestyle socially, right? I got my friends, they're going to make fun of me if I drive a crap car. But you know what? I did drive a crap car. I did get that social bullying from being rich to suddenly being, average or below average social status. And I got bullied big time during those years. But that bullying brought me a lot of confidence. A confidence where I was focused. So instead of me trying to make my college friends and trying to impress girls or boys with whatever, I used to go to colleges to take my classes, lectures, and just immediately hop out and start selling and start doing business and meeting people and making money. So been very lucky. It was 2 years of hardship, and ultimately it paid it off because we finally took a majority share in one of the aluminum manufacturing companies, a factory, and we took care of their imports. So from there onwards, we became the majority shareholders, and we ultimately bought it out. And 2016 we sold it after 16 years, and we took an excellent exit. So we have been the first ones to import aluminum composite panels, laminated wooden floors back in year 2000. Now it's very common these days, right? So I was very innovative. I would introduce innovation. I would advertise stuff, market stuff. We had a printing press, as I told you. So I turned around that entire printing press from one machine into a fully integrated printing press, offset printing press in less than 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been through some stuff. Like when that market crashed, I mean, you must have went through a lot of struggles to come back. You know what it's like to get. We had a stage 2 weeks ago with Tim Story, one of Oprah's best friends, on Clubhouse. It was called From Setbacks to Comebacks, and that's what he's known as, like the comeback king. And he teaches a lot of people about coming back from setbacks. So you had a giant setback there, and you figured out how to come back from it.
I fell and I had setbacks by far 4 times in my life, and we bounced back. Uh, because every setback is not to be blamed on external environmental factors. It's more about us aligning to external environmental factors, calibrating to market conditions, and being smart about it. Because in every recession, every depression, every time we lost money, everything I went broke, it was always my fault.
Mm, that's brilliant. Thank you, Shafat. By the way, so Shafat and I, we're operating on two totally different time zones. It's nighttime where Shafat is, and it's early morning where I'm at. So I appreciate you, Shafat. So Shafat, when that happened, when the 1998 crash in Pakistan, so you were just getting into college, or was that before you got to college?
Yeah, I was in the college. I was already in college, and yeah, I was already in college, and I was having one heck of a life. But I think I had a much better life during those years of crisis because it really brought the best out of me. I remember the first presentation I made in 1998 in front of a group of investors, and there were about 13 CEOs. I had to present them, you know, about our printing publication services and this new aluminum thing that we're looking at. And I remember my legs were shaking, and we had this huge, projector where you would have those transparent slides that you would put on the light invertedly, and they would appear, will be projected on the wall or whatever. So I remember those days. I remember fax machines, and I knew how to fax. I learned how to write a check or a draft or deposit slips when I was in grade 6, grade 7.
That's really good, Shafat. So Shafat, what college did you wind up going to?
So I've been an interesting guy. Um, I got kicked out from 6 different colleges in less than 1 year.
In less than
Okay,
1 year?
less than 1 year, yeah. So I would
Wow.
go to college, something or the other would happen, and I'd rather leave it, or I'll rather get kicked out. One thing or the other would happen. So I ended up doing my A levels privately as a private student with British Council, and that's about it. But then afterwards, I kind of streamlined.
So I don't know how's the system in Pakistan, the school system? You go 12 grades and then college, so grade
Now
12,
you
around
go,
17, 18.
now you go 10 grades, and then it's college.
Oh,
2 years of college, and then you go into a university for your 4 years of graduation or honors degree, and then you gotta work for 1 year minimum. Now the laws have changed, about 2 years to do an internship or work, and then you apply for masters, and similarly, then you get your PhDs done. So yeah, it's a pretty much the same process. I think we follow the British system more
mm,
in Pakistan and India because we've been colonies for a while. So
yeah.
yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So 10, grade 10, when you're probably about, I guess 16, and then you do 2 years of college, which takes you to about 18, and then you do 4-year university, which is what we do here in the
No,
United
I was
States.
in grade 10. I was probably 13 or 14.
Oh, 14?
Yeah. I got
Wow.
admitted to school very early. I was going to school when I was 2.5 years old, and I got
Wow.
twice. I got double promotions because I was like a super smart kid. So grade
Huh.
4, I did it in 6 months, and grade 6, I also did it in 6 months.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you were ahead of the curve. No wonder you were getting in trouble. You were bored. You're You're right.
Maybe.
That's what happens. People that are very highly intelligent, including myself. I got myself in a lot of trouble in school, but grade school, because I think that's the problem with the educational system. They try to cater to the average, but what about people that think differently? Think higher. Think are always thinking. The brain's always working at a different speed. They need to challenge them a little more.
The, Unfortunately, the education system is so broken globally because of homogeneity, to create a homogeneous product or output of human capital, training everybody on the same one size fits all curriculum. By the time you get into specializations, it's just too late, because it's usually during your 16 years of education or 15 years of education that you get to choose, okay, what do I need to specialize in? I think career counseling, natural aptitude testing, et cetera, should be done at a very early stage, maybe when you're 3 or 4 years, to see what is this kid? Is he an artist, or is she a musician, or is she techie, or is she great in maths? So I think that's where we need to build up our human capital, and it has to be more skill focused, compared to disciplines and subject focused. It has to be job description focused and not job title focused. It's about efficiency, operational efficiency, power to execute, et cetera, and then you choose and you teach people leadership, because I think leadership is something which is, Dr. Finance, is kind of conceived that if I have a following of so many people, I'm a leader. That's not leadership. So when someone turns around and say, "Oh well, I'm not sitting in a managerial position or a management position where I have to be a leader or I have to learn leadership," that's completely wrong. We are all leaders because we lead our own lives, our own selves, and we have to be a king or a queen of our own self, SELF. And that requires leadership skills. So to begin with, everybody has to lead their soul, their heart, and their mind, tame it and lead it with inspiration. You need to, so call it self-love or whatever, but ultimately you need to recognize yourself, understand your purpose, understand your true self, align it with what's around you, create your mindset, skill, knowledge, and heart and aptitude fit with the product or service or the discipline which you love to do, so the work that you love to do. So create that fit and just crush it.
Yeah, that's a brilliant statement there. Love it, Shafat. All right, Shafat. So we've covered the youth. We went to college. Did you get your master's degree after you graduated college?
Yeah, I got double masters. I
Wow.
did an MBA in marketing, which so I did my graduation BBA honors, which is bachelor's in business administration and marketing, as well as IT. And then that's 4 years. And then I did my master's MBA in marketing again, and then I took another MBA for finance.
Just curious, in Pakistan, do you grow up speaking English? I've never been to, I've been to India before, never been to Pakistan. Is it
Yeah, a lot of people,
taught in,
English is the second language. Urdu is our national language. But then because Pakistan is big, so there are many other languages, Saraiki, Punjabi, Pashto, Balochi, Sindhi. So there are all these different regional languages and again, community accents on each of those languages. But the core that everybody understands is Urdu, which is the primary language, and secondary language, which is most commonly used, is English. So if you visit Pakistan, you will see advertising in English and packaging in English and TV channels which are bilingual. So it's very bilingual.
it would probably be, I'm guessing, equivalent to here in the United States, where English is the primary language, but there's so many people that speak Spanish
Correct.
that there's always a translation. No matter what box you pick up, it's always, and in Espanol, you read Espanol, and there goes the translation, right?
Yeah.
So thank you, Shafat. I appreciate that. So Shafat, getting back into your 20s, you graduated college, you got a double master, one in marketing, and I'm curious how the next process of your life went. how would you get so interested in advertising and branding and all that stuff? Was that your core business, your first business?
So here's the truth. I had two passions in my life. I used to look at my dad, and he was so physically fit and smart that he would wear his nice Air Force overall, and he had these badges here and ranks here and there, and like, oh my God, that's like Top Gun, Tom Cruise style. And I was like, okay, I need to do that. And it's passion, you're sitting behind a machine, a jet, you're flying F-16s, etc. And you're like, wow. And there's stories to tell, it's power. So I liked it. But deep down, I loved arts. So I'm a self-taught pianist, which means I cannot read notes. But if you tell me I can play something for you right now, without even knowing the names of the chords. I used to paint. I was very good in it. I used to write excellent content. I used to do poetry like a little kid. So somewhere deep down, I was more of an artist. But so when I was in my, mid school or so, I said that, Dad, I want to become an artist. I told my mom the same. My dad said, all right, hey, listen, let me take you out and show you what artist looks like. Okay. So he took me to some of the most famous artists in the GCC region and in Pakistan as well, and a few others that he knew of. So I realized that less than 1% artists were actually rich and famous. And 99 point, I don't know, 5% or 9%, I don't know the figures, I don't want to drop a bad figure here, but they were broke, like really broke,
Really broke. Yeah.
And not only that, they were depressed. They were heartbroken too. Many of them were on drugs, alcohol, something like this, to be super creative. And they all had their own style of arts and expression. And, there was something special about these people. And artists are special. I love artists. I love content creators. I love artists. I have huge respect for them because they go for their passion. But probably that wasn't the life I wanted. You know, I come from a privileged home, and I didn't want to go and become an artist doing paintings and then begging galleries back then to display it. And they give me 20-30% as a new artist, and they keep 70, 80, 90%. That's not a good business deal. So I always wanted to make money, and that wasn't a good deal. So I was like, okay, what is it that I can do where my hobby of art and design, and generally design thinking, can fit in and I can still make a lot of money? And I think the best part was advertising. So you're always creative. You're doing visual arts, you're doing branding, you're drawing, you're thinking of great creative concepts, you execute them. And then once I learned advertising, I've got straight A's during my education when it came to my marketing subjects, you know. Uh, and I was very bad at mathematics. I still am. I'm not a numbers person. I'm a people's person. I'm more, I try to resonate with the hearts of our customers, of my board, of our investors, but with a lot of logic. But if you look at my personality, at the same time, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, right? So it's courage and risk taking. So design thinking, courage, and most importantly, integrity. These three things were somehow naturally within me, and I was blessed with it. So that made me an entrepreneur.
Incredible. Thank you, Shafat. Appreciate that. And if you put it all together, I mean, you're able to use your creativity to do the same thing you were doing as an artist, but just also make money and create a great lifestyle for you and your family. So you were thinking ahead, and also as a businessman, you're creating deals, right? You're creating a lot of things at once. You're creating advertisements, plus is a deal in every situation, and that's art right there. Most people don't realize it. There's an art to that deal.
Absolutely. Investment, I came into investments business because there's an art of deal making and there's an art to structure an investment. It's a beautiful architecture. How when you actually architect an investment or a business model,
Mm.
it's a master stroke.
Or a business relationship, right? Like to connect to a certain person in a certain
Absolutely.
way. There's an art to that, right? Right, Shafat? Like every single person, there has a different personality and there's a different way to approach them, a different dance.
100%. And here's something I would add while you talk about arts. A lot of people think that arts is outside of being free. So you're free thinking, you're thinking outside the box. But design is slightly different. And great artists or great art or great design is that perfect fit and match of science and arts together, of numbers, ratios, research, etc., etc. So you have, in design you have a golden ratio, right? You guys can Google it, and that golden ratio, certain layouts, certain semiotics, their effects on emotions, the way you structure a business model, the way cash flows through it, like it flows in your bloodstream in a body. The way neurons work is exactly how when somebody looks at an investment proposition or a business proposition, those neurons should work. How the body works and creates a memorable recall, you need to create that wow factor, that stimulus that stays in someone, and that person who has attended your event or a webinar or a workshop or whatever, a podcast, just comes out and say, I remember this is what Dr. Finance said.
Mm.
you know and that's when they pick up the phone and they say, or send an email and say, I want to get engaged, I want to know more, I want to explore more. So understanding the science of curiosity and the art of creating curiosity, and so on, you can apply pretty much the same principles all over your life.
I love it. Thank you, Shafat. Appreciate you, man. All right. So Shafat, we're kind of getting into the middle of your story and we can go many different directions with this. Before I have about 20 questions to ask you, which we'll be picking up on parts of your story through that. So do you want to talk more about, I think at this point, a good thing to dive into your story about how your decision process to get into these different businesses. Maybe first start with your first business. I think branding, advertising. We kind of covered it already, but just generalities. And then how you started acquiring other businesses. What was going on in your mind to tell you, all right, I'm ready for something else. I want to diversify a little bit. Let's pick up this business, or wait for the right opportunity. And maybe the right opportunity came. Can you connect the dots from your first business to
I
your
have to
present?
move out of my office if you need a deeper dive into Shafat,
Oh,
right?
wow. We're getting a tour
So
of the office. This is
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. So I've got a brilliant aquarium right here.
Uh-huh.
A lot of fish. I love fish. It's kind of soothing. I've got my mini library. I've got a lot of design books, etc., etc. over here. This is all our portfolio of different brochures and brands we work for, coffee table books, and so on. I keep my guitar handy. Well, electrics. I've got some Ibanez, some Fenders. Paul Reed Smith PRS. Got Yamaha keyboards. So anyways, but I'm just gonna sit at a much convenient place so we can have a deeper discussion into the questions that you have just asked. So this is how it is. I think advertising gave me something really profound, and that is sectors and verticals, different sectors. So you're working with FMCG, you're working with banks, you're working with salons, you're working with spas, nails, hair extension products, skincare products, you're working with electronics, you're working with so many that you're like, oh wow, I've got this huge breadth and depth about businesses. But the honest truth is, you're into finance, so I'm just going to elaborate a bit. If you look at a profit and loss statement, P&L statement, the top number is sales, right? Below it is CGS, and then you get your gross, correct?
Mhm.
After gross, your gross margin or gross profit, whatever people call it anywhere in the world, The next couple of pages, or maybe 10 pages, or 2 pages, or 3 pages, is expenditures, 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 expenditures. Right? So, me, who's in marketing, usually a large corporation has a marketing budget for about 3% to about 5% max. Those who are really found aggressive in marketing or advertising are spending about 6.5% to 7%. Now, small medium enterprises are spending a bit more, and they somehow go to a threshold of about 10%, 8% to about 12%. Startups usually have to spend a lot more to create that brand awareness, so they are sitting between 12% to 18% or even 25% to really push it during the first couple of years, right? Now, majority, so if you look at a pie, so this is a pie, okay, I'll pick this up. So for example, you have this, so if you divide it, you have majority of the money that goes is media spend. The money you pay for paid advertising, billboards, printing, TV commercial spots, outdoor advertising, flyer distribution, subscriptions for database marketing, etc., etc. That's all media. Less than 10% of that 5% is given out for creativity, content, branding. That's what we do, right? Or, so to speak, consulting. It's less than 10%. It's about maximum 20%, so 20% on creative, 80% on media. So I sat down and realized that if I look at a business, number one, I'm part of their expense story. And when we talk about expense, it's painful. Everybody in the world, even us as humans, we want to reduce our expenditures, right? So whenever you have to pay for something, you're like, what the hell? It's painful, right? I don't want to pay my utility bills. And I am in a business where I go to entrepreneurs, CMOs, and businesses and tell them, hey, I'm just going to increase your pain, right? It was painful. You're paying, $500,000, and I want to make you pay $700,000 or $1 million, and then something will happen. Some magic will happen. But my share is minuscule because I'm part of the expense. I can run my kitchen. I can lead a very good life. So I sat back and said, is it the mission and purpose of my life to make $30,000, $40,000 a month? Is that wealth generation? I don't think so. I have to be creative every day, multiple times during my day, for multiple clients. I have to service them. I have to do business development. I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, like hundreds of steps. For what? For getting 2% or less than 1% of the total revenues that the business is making. So I sat back and I said, I need to tap on the top number, which is sales. How can I become that government which says GST, right? Sales tax. You sold $1 million, 18% GST. I don't care what your gross margins are. I don't care whether you're profitable. I don't care whether you're able to pay anybody. You sold it, the consumer, and you guys have to give government 18% sales tax. Am I correct? So government is smarter than me. Well, a lot of people think politicians are stupid. They don't know how to run a country. I think they exactly know how to run a country. They tapped into the sales number. That's what the economists did. So me and Shafaat said, okay, I need to take my share from sales. That is when performance marketing was born. This is when we came up as a sales agency and we went into real estate. So we're like, okay, we will brand for you, we will market for you, and we'll take 10-15% chunk right from your sales. And then it evolved into what I call today integrated precision marketing. which is minimum spillover effect on your crazy media spend, make it precise through data, through insights, through artificial intelligence, through sophisticated software, so you're not wasting money. Your customer acquisition costs come down, your lead gen comes down. So you perform, and then you also take a performance fee, you take a consulting fee, and you really pick up a business, turn the whole business around, created something magical out of it, and completely grow it out of proportions. But that required serious business acumen, right? So today, when someone comes to us and says, I have this business and I want to go from point A to point B, Dr. Finance, I would actually tell them, how do you want to compensate me? And they're going to say, oh, become my consultant. And I'm like, I hate consulting. I hate coaching. Why? Because I don't have the skin in the game. I can advise Dr. Finance now, hey, Dr. Finance, wake up 4 in the morning, take a 1-hour run, then do another 30 minutes exercise, then eat the shittiest healthy food that you find on your plate. Then you have to do this, and you have to do, if you do this, make this big paper, write your goals, and then you will achieve your $10 million, $1 billion ambition by just putting this paper on the wall and look at it every day and feel the energy coming in and out. Bullshit. Pardon my French, but bullshit. If you tell the same consultant that whatever you're consulting me, Mr. Shafaat, can you do this yourself? And the consultant will run away. Literally, he will run away. He can never do it. So if you cannot, as a consultant, cannot execute, you should not be consulting. So Brandbeat, our agency, came up with this unique proposition, which said, we're going to consult, we're going to build a strategy, we're going to execute it for you, and we're going to take responsibility for that. But we need a share in the top number, which is sales. And at the same time, we need to be paid for our teams, which was your pre-existing marketing expense. And we are going to make you investable. So this is exactly what advertising is about. But for us, advertising is not where wealth is generated. So when we were selling real estate for a long time, Dr. Finance, I realized that, real estate made us a lot more money. It costs the same effort to land a $2,000 branding client to a $50,000 marketing client to a $250,000 marketing client or a $100,000 consulting client. And it exactly takes us the same effort to sell the Battersea Power Station project, phase 4, phase 5 in London, or a huge penthouse in LA, or build a huge development in the Caribbean, or sell citizenship by investment, or execute a private equity deal for couple of $100 million, and we make a much bigger chunk. So frankly speaking, real estate and investments made us a lot of money. So I pivoted, but we kept the two things together. And because tech is inevitable, so I had to adopt to tech, and we're now leveraging tech through our tech company. So that's literally in a nutshell, and I hope that helped you, get some kind of answer out of the question you asked.
Yeah, absolutely, Shafaat. So you basically have a diversified portfolio right now. You have the tech, you have the Brandbeat, and the real estate. That's your major different product lines, services lines, so to speak, right? Do you plan on branching into any other industries?
So through our investment arm, we are already into multiple sectors. So we have investments in, majority of them are in real estate, hospitality, healthcare, renewable energy, and obviously technology through our VC arm, right? So even when you look at technology or the startup kind of stuff, then we have health tech, again, is healthcare. We have fintech, and we are now going big with edtech and social platforms. So that's what we're interested in. We used to be more of a Series A type investment firm, where we would know that, okay, everything is validated and we'll go and invest in Series A. But about 6 years ago, we changed our investment strategy because post Series A for us, it was a difficult exit.
Mm.
And usually the risk is very high for startups because they're burn rate, et cetera, et cetera. You're testing out a new idea and waiting for a typical IRR or return on investment to revenues and profitability was a huge, huge, huge risk. So we are now currently focused more on, pre-seed and seed.
That's awesome. Thank you, Shafaat. Appreciate that. You have a beautiful office, by the way. Love that painting in the
Thank you.
background. It's pretty cool. All right, thank you, Shafaat. So you want to bring us up to speed? Any last minute thoughts to close out the story, present moment, what you've been up to, I guess the past since COVID. Any thoughts on that?
Um, COVID was a learning. I lost my father during COVID in January 2021.
Sorry to hear that, Shafaat.
Yeah, and that really shook us because it brought on my shoulders a lot of responsibility. I was the vice chairman of our family office and our investments business. So I saw that seat empty and that was painful. I couldn't get that advice anymore and that wisdom anymore. And that's what I thought, by the way. But I feel him guiding me through my dreams, coming into my thoughts. And now that I sit on that chair, I would always think, what would he do whenever I'm stuck? So starting from, managing, it's just a fancy word, family office or family business. But managing it as a chairman, as a leader, you have to keep your family together. And you do not sit with a corporate hat. You sit with a family hat. And when you sit with a family hat professionally, you need to realize that every single team member is your family member. Every supplier, every vendor, you have to bring them close as family, right? So when I'm asked that what's the lesson by far while I'm in my 40s? Shafat, what is the lesson of 20 years of working in business? Or what were you inspired from? And I would say I'm inspired from two things. I'm inspired from mafia, Italian mafia. How would you create a family, a mafia, where somebody's ready to take a bullet on their chest for you? Literally. They're ready to go behind bars for you. They're ready to cover you. What is that love? What is that leadership that brings people together so close? So I built that mafia culture in my company by creating them and calling them a family and calling our businesses the people's business, for the people, by the people. And the second thing which I was inspired from are different prophets of the world, religious prophets. And I'm amazed. They left this world thousands of years ago. We haven't seen them, we haven't met them, but we believe in their message. A lot of people, right? So they are such a huge brand, such a huge brand. So I would look at their lives and I would say, okay, what was it that they were made of? And I realized it was truth, integrity, honesty, and most importantly, unconditional love and selfless service, giving attitude, forgiving others, forgetting, uplifting people, and thinking of a together mindset. And that's how they created disciples. And that's how the disciples spread the word. And the power of truth resonates thousands of years later in our hearts and minds. So what I really want to create is something similar in the business world. And I hope I'm able to achieve it.
Thank you, Shafaat. And just to elaborate on that last point. So when you're saying you're inspired by mafia, you're talking about the good parts, right? Because there's obviously a lot of bad parts to that as well. And I'm sure you don't want any of that to be a burden on your family.
It's a tool. A mafia as in a management principle
Mhm.
or value system or brand value proposition or culture or management skills of those guys and how they beat the system or how they make the system work for them. That is smart. That's very intelligent, and I love it. Now, me and you were sitting on a laptop or a desktop. I don't know. I'm on my MacBook Air, and I can use it for a podcast with you and share goodness, or I can use it to watch porn, or I can use it to stalk a woman and harass someone, right? So it's a tool how you use it. So management principles, beliefs, learnings, it's we all have a choice to make. And I think obviously I'm a person who's always going to try to make a choice which never ever hurts anyone.
Mm. Okay, that's a brilliant way to add that. Thank you, Shafaat. So, okay, so thank you, Shafaat. I appreciate that. What do you like to do for fun?
You want me to be dead honest?
Well, within the context of a professional setting, I don't know what's about to come out of your mouth.
So then you don't call it fun, right? That's a paradox. So then it's not fun. Okay, let me think. So you're talking about professional fun, are you?
Well,
Or
I
fun?
mean, you like to golf, things like that.
No,
Fish.
no. I'm not boring. I'm
Uh-huh.
not a boring golfer. Golf is old school. Golf is old school. These days, nobody has the time to play golf. I think people who are playing golf and spending like I don't know, a couple of hours on the course, they probably should be doing something better. We're living in a fast world. We're living in a tech world. I would rather achieve the same relationships instead of spending 2 hours on a golf course in like 20 minutes somewhere else, and really get down to business. So for fun, I play music. To relax my mind, I pray 5 times a day as a Muslim. That's very soothing. It really re-energizes me because we do ablution, we fresh up, everything goes. We're focused for 5, 10 minutes in prayers. We receive the blessings, exchange the energy, back to work, fully charged. And that is why probably I just sleep 4.5, 5 hours a day. And for fun, I love to eat and dine 5 star always. I'm a very fine person. So I do not do, and I do not like cheap people or cheap experiences. Even if I have to eat a hamburger on a street, or even if I go and pick up McDonald's on the way, I'll eat it with a certain finesse, you know?
Shafaat style.
Yeah. So because I value food, water, and the blessings, and the bread and people. I value it. So I try to enjoy it. So, you know, and that's fun for me. A good company is fun for me. A good conversation is fun for me. Um, I watch a movie in like 4 different parts. So I take 15 minutes and the call comes and I pause, pause, pause. And then something else comes and pause. So it takes me about 3 to 4 days if I have to watch a 90 minutes movie. Same is true with social media. So one of the reasons that even I'm on Clubhouse is because for me that's fun, learning, making relationships, understanding and having good conversations. I think that's fun for me. I play music, I do a little bit of sports. Uh, and yeah, that's for me, that's fun. I paint. I love to, do my own floral arrangements.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. You do
so
that?
yeah, yeah, I do that. Every 2 days, I fresh up my flowers. So if you look around, I have this bunch of flowers. So these are all fresh flowers. There's another bunch of flowers on the other side. So every 2 days, I go myself to a nearby florist, anywhere in the world. I have my own florist,
Wow.
my own barber, my own dry cleaning service guy, and they're special people. And I love them. So I have my like own people, own relationships, and they love me. And my own chefs when I have to eat something special from someone. Um, But that therapy of 5, 6 minutes to do a floral arrangement in my office and in my home, it connects me with nature, which unfortunately in the current brick, steel, glass corporate cities, you don't get to feel the earth and the green and touch the nature.
And Shafat, if you don't mind me complimenting you, I noticed that you have a really good sense of style in a lot of your profile pictures that you took, especially the ones on Instagram. You got a lot of really cool different outfits that you wear to match the theme of that specific mood you were going for in that picture. So whether it was rock and roll or just classy, wearing a vest, hanging out in a leather chair, like I got to give you compliments for that.
I'm
It's
humble.
not easy to do that.
I think it just flows naturally. I live in the moment. I live with my heart, and I love people with my heart. Somebody comes to me with a bad intention, I'll feel it, but I'll always give them a chance. I mean, let's be honest, Dr. Finance. What can anybody take from me? Money? Take it. My business? Hijack it. I'll build another one. Want to take my money? I'll mint money once again. I know how it works. Want to take my knowledge, apply it, and become rich? Be my guest. Take it. You know, I'll be very happy if you do that. So, what can anybody take from anyone? But the worst that you can take from someone is a curse. That's the worst. So, take anything from anyone, but not a curse. So, what I do the opposite. I go and I take prayers from people. When my clients are successful, I don't ask them to smile. I don't talk about customer smile or customer excitement or delight. I talk about my customer praying for me that may Shafaat and his businesses live so they can even serve my next 2 generations and do the same thing that they've done for us. So they can make us money while we sit. They can give us that peace, that comfort, that confidence that they're doing their business and their work and they're serving us with integrity. So I am out to collect prayers. So for me, anything else is meaningless. Nobody can take away my integrity if I do not lie, if I do not cheat. Nobody can do that. Life and death, health is in my own hands. Health is in my own hands. Life and death is in God's hands. So why do I worry? The worst, somebody's going to take my life. Well, if it's written, time, date, place, it would happen. Right? So, frankly speaking, I'm of the mindset your death actually protects you from your death. Because when your death is pre-written at a certain place, certain time, and certain area, and a certain life, you will never die before. So your death will ensure that you do not die before because your death has to come at that time and place and moment. So before that, it's all life. And live your life, be kind to others, and that's all I do. Give first. Just give, give, give. If something belongs to you, Dr. Finance, whether I give it to you or not, and whether my miser ass, you're still gonna get it because it was meant for you. So why is it that I don't give you first?
It's not ready yet. It's ready when it's ready. Shafaat, thank you so much. Shafaat, I appreciate you humoring me with these incredible questions. All right, so Shafaat, so the next phase of this podcast is basically I got about 20 questions for you. We're going to get into some detailed things of what you specialize in and things that I think you might be interested in. For example, but the first one actually is about books because I have a lot of this podcast was full of New York Times bestsellers and things like that. Do you have any books or any writings, publications you want to talk about, maybe for a minute or two?
I would recommend one book.
No, anything that you wrote, though, actually, like your own book.
Anything that I wrote. So I'm writing 2 books right now. They're still not published. One is The Fall of Silence, um, which actually speaks about real practical investors, entrepreneurs, thought leaders who have actually gone silent in this era of media noise. And that is The Fall of Silence, where the real people are actually not on a podcast or big social media stars. For example, I'm on a podcast with you, and I'm not that great. There are people who are greater than me, deeper than me, better than me. And they don't come up on a podcast. They're silent. They don't want to expose themselves to media, politicians, and risks. So there's a fall of silence because every time when they will speak or when they will share something or they will say something, some people will agree to them and a lot of people might just tarnish their reputation. And for them, their reputation is more important. So these are deep people. So there's a fall of silence. There is a silence when a woman is quiet and she doesn't smile. There's a history to it. There's a silence of a father when he comes home, goes to work, and doesn't smile with his wife or children. There is something that has happened to that person. There is something going wrong. So that's the book about emotional intelligence and recognizing the right people. The second book that I'm doing is um, about disrupting failure. So, how people say that it's okay to fail, but how do you really disrupt failure? So, it gives you an overarching idea about what we're doing as globally in education and so many other sectors, the role of corporations, entrepreneurs, the myths, and at a personal level, what is it that you should do to disrupt failure? Um, and it touches upon a lot of things that an entrepreneur should do. So these are the two books that I'm currently writing, and yeah, so nothing else.
Going back to your first book, what's the conclusion or what's the solution, do you think, for people who are silent, that are great, that are out there just watching all this cancel culture happening? And we're not talking politics here,
Mm.
just general. Do you think that maybe they should have a little more courage, or what's the solution for that? Do you think they should step up to the plate and stop being silent, or is that a personal decision?
You do not raise your voice for justice, you're part of injustice. So there's a call for these people who are silent to create strategic partnerships and go out there and get the word out and get the truth out. You can't just let many things fall where they're falling. Um, Dr. Finance, in the real world, there is a way to achieve power. You can't become a president of a country by becoming a YouTube star. You can influence people. You can share an opinion with a lot of people like or follow, but they would not give you the reins of running the whole country, you know? So there's a certain process. You need to go through elections, you need to be a minister, you need to have a certain service period in government, you need to have a political party, you need to win a certain number of seats across 50 states or whatever states, in different parts of the world. And that's when you become a president of a country. You need to have the judiciary on your side, you have the military on your side, you need to be cleared from intelligence agencies, and that's when you become who you become. You need to have funding, you need to have connections, relationships, you need to have people believe in who you are, you need to be charismatic, you need to be wise, etc., etc. So if there is somebody sitting on his couch saying, this is wrong and that is wrong and this is wrong and this is the solution, but I don't want to take the journey of becoming a president, I'm actually asking those people to get up and go through that process. And then when you sit there on that seat, then tell me whether or not it was a wise decision to do what you do. Talking about inflation, for example, is easy, and being a finance minister of a country or the governor of state bank, for example, and devising your fiscal and monetary policy and looking at funds and looking at exchange rates and looking at the balance of payments and looking at foreign trade and then looking at how inflation works, that's one heck of a job, my friend.
Absolutely, Shafat. By the way, Shafat, if you need any help with those two books, I became a speaker and all this other stuff, marketer, because of my books. I was a professor for 10 years, so I consider myself a writer first. So if I can help you in any way with those, I'd be happy to.
You're very kind, and I'll definitely need help from somebody as profound, as amazing, as professional, as experienced as yourself. And I'll definitely seek some help. I'm always open to receiving help. Alone, you can never achieve anything. It always has to be together. That's what I believe in.
Brilliant, brilliant. I love it. Thank you, Shafat. So, Shafat, we're going to get into some more questions. First, I'd like to just set the stage, though. So we have a huge North American audience here, but mostly we also have a lot of global audience. I'd like to just set the stage for learning more about Pakistan and Dubai's presence on the global economic marketplace, just to learn about these two countries. So I used to teach as a finance professor. I also taught courses that were international business. So we would go through, it was fun actually. A lot of times I'd have a different country for each class, and we just
Right.
learn about the country and economic situation to then we can expand on how we would do business navigating through that country's geopolitical infrastructure situation, everything. We put it all together. So can you just describe maybe the current landscape, the economic landscape for Pakistan? So let's start with Pakistan, then we'll go to Dubai, because I know you're doing a lot of stuff over here as well.
So Dubai, Pakistan is my home country, and Dubai is where I've been a resident for decades. And I'm currently based out of Dubai. I'm visiting Pakistan because of my ailing mother, and I request every listener to maybe take a moment to pray for all the mothers in the world, including mine, that they have a long life and they're healthy and they're comfortable. So that's why I'm in Pakistan these days. I'll be flying back to Dubai very soon, as far as she permits me and allows me. So at a certain level, you're comfortable, your bills are paid, your kids are going to school, business is doing well, everything is okay. What else do I need? I should rather spend time with my mom. That moment, that time is never going to return in my life, you know. So that's why I'm here in Pakistan these days. I do not have, except for an office with, about 40, 50 people working for my advertising agency in Pakistan. Uh, we do not have any business in Pakistan anymore. Um, but I'm still very well connected with the Pakistani business community, business leaders, government, and corporations, as well as small medium enterprises, startup ecosystem. I understand it very deeply. Now, China became China by tapping into the North American consumer market. They did not create brands. They were not they were not Macintosh or Apple. They were not no Louis Vuittons. They were not Christian Dior's, right? Americans know how to create a brand. China as a country is more like a business process outsourcing nation or manufacturing nation or sector. So if a huge country like China could build itself by selling to one consumer market, which is the Americans, this same thing was copied by India, and they picked up on the services side, leveraging language. Chinese had an issue with English language. Indians and us and Pakistanis were colonized by British, so we understood English. It was easy for us to adopt. Cheap labor, developing country, call centers,
Mhm.
service centers, IT, blah, 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 goes to India. And India, right in front of our eyes, is trying to become a superpower. Uh,
And they might, based on what you just said, sorry to interrupt you, they actually have an advantage because of that language barrier has been eliminated, right? They would have a better advantage than China.
yeah, so that's exactly the advantage. So this is why they picked up the services sector and China picked up the product sector, product development and manufacturing. In this whole scenario, there were other countries, Pakistan and a few others. Some, a lot of things went to Japan, Vietnam, Pakistan, Bangladesh. This is literally the region if you look at it, right? So when you look at that region, you realize that they never created a brand as big as Apple or Google or Microsoft, correct?
Mm.
So brand conception and ideation is something which is gifted in the United States because of the entrepreneurial ease of doing business, environment, support, freedom, and democracy and capitalism at its best. So great dreams, passion projects, sophisticated things, big ideas are born in the West. And then the Middle East or the Eastern countries essentially, they are struggling to on tenders.
Mm.
That's a tender business.
Mm.
Okay. Pakistan played that role, but Pakistan went on a back foot because of energy crisis in Pakistan, a continuing war on terrorism for which Pakistan has been a victim, from Kashmir to Afghanistan to the spillover effect in Syria, Yemen, so on and so forth. I don't want to get into politics, but it had a huge economic impact on Pakistan, and Pakistan had to play a dual role between Russia and US all this time. And then you have a neighbor like Iran. You have, I mean, our entire western border is Afghanistan and Iran. I mean, what the hell do you expect?
Mm.
It's just like United States, right? So there's an impact. But Pakistani as a nation is great. As a country, it's amazing. People are very hardworking, very intelligent, very skillful. Um, Politics is all right, but I think that at the same time, Pakistan really needs to be more competitive. So you do see a CEO of Google who's Indian, but then at the same time, you also see the mayor of London to be an ex-Pakistani, now a British citizen, right? So I think the world is changing. It's becoming more borderless. Um, so it's just like that somebody creates Alibaba and it works great in China and a few other regions, but Jeff comes up with Amazon, pivots, copy pastes Alibaba in a much better way, and kills Alibaba. Somebody creates Orkut, and somebody looks at Orkut as a social media platform of connecting, and Mark Zuckerberg comes and creates Facebook and blows it out of proportion, becomes billions of dollars a company, right? Someone creates the first virus, which by the way was created by a Pakistani in Pakistan, the first ever computer virus.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's the truth. The first ever computer virus was created by a Pakistani. And they were great in coding back then in 80s. And that one thing led to creating another monster like Norton, antivirus,
Mm.
big data. So I think world is becoming global, world is becoming great, and I do really invite that whatever we listen on media about Saudi, that oh, Saudi is a desert, oh, the women out there have zero rights, they are going through some, I don't know, you go there and you're suffocated. It's crap. People think you come to Pakistan you'll be shot. I'm here for the last 1 month or so. I'm not shot. I never got mugged or robbed. And half of my family is here, and none of them got mugged or robbed. Actually, if they actually people give way to women, they respect women, they love women, they take care of. There's so much respect. There's such a deep value system here. People support. You know, in Pakistan, if you come to someone and say, "Brother, I need $1,000 as a loan," this guy would just pull out the money and just give it to you and say, "Okay, there you go." No writing, no check, no collateral, nothing. You know, that's Pakistan. That's this amazing country.
And you
So
and that's all over Pakistan. It's not just where you're from or because
no,
you're
no, no, it's
of a
all
certain
over.
family.
Actually, it's all over the Islamic world.
Wow.
So you go to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain. You go to Bahrain, you hop in a taxi. The taxi driver would be a local Bahraini, Arab. He'll be driving a taxi, right? I was going, well, Bahrain is Arab Bahrain because they laugh so much. They crack so many jokes. You're just gonna laugh. You go to Egypt, it's fun. Yeah, people dope in Egypt, you know. People love hash in Egypt. There's a lot of hash in Egypt, right? But they're funny. They're great IT experts. They do great stuff in IT. A lot of Arab and American IT projects are outsourced in Egypt these days, right? Over the last 12 years or so. You go to Lebanon, and Lebanon have this amazing marketing advertising. Open up a Lebanese channel and look at how they dress up. Look at their fashion. Look at their brands. Look at the Hariri family. Look at some. You go to Jordan. Wow. So you know these are countries with the way they're presented is completely the opposite of what it is on the ground. They're open. They welcome everybody. So I think it's high time that we need to realize and learn. It doesn't matter you're a Jew, Christian, Muslim, atheist, or whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter you're black, white, brown, off white, yellow, red, orange. It doesn't matter. These things don't matter. We need to understand we are humans. Our names, our unique fingerprint, our unique retina, stuff, our unique skin color, or our tribe, or our place of birth, it's only blessed to us so we can recognize each other and acknowledge each other, to remember each other. It is not given to us so we can judge each other. And that's the difference. I hope the world learns that.
Shafat, that is beautiful. And that's why I wanted to bring you on this podcast. I know you have a great message. And I agree with what you just said. And I just want to share something, if you don't mind. When I was 19, so I came out of Philadelphia, I never really traveled much as a kid. Grew up relatively poor and one of the toughest, biggest city one of the biggest cities in the country, and had the most crime. And so when I was 19, I was blessed to go on this program called Semester at Sea, which circumnavigated the globe. Before I went on there, because the stock that I came from, they never traveled. So we didn't have really any information to guide me to this. And most people said things that they learned on TV. You're going to go there. It's dangerous. These are dangerous places. South America, Africa, India, especially, right? Like Vietnam, don't go there. You got to be careful. Everything's be careful. And by the end of the conversation, I'm like, I'm never going to get anywhere in life if I keep listening to this. Like if I be careful and pay attention to every single superstition that's imposed on me, I'm going to stand like a robot the rest of my life. So I made an executive decision for my own life and said, I'm going, and I don't care. And when I went, it was amazing. It's exactly what you just said. I found out, yeah, there's some violent stuff, but most people in humanity are actually, it doesn't matter how poor they are. Like in India, I've seen people with literally sleeping on the streets. They had nothing and they still all had a great heart. And then, you know what I found out when I completely went around the world? I said, my city's more dangerous than most of these places. And I was worried for what? But the kind heart of humanity that resonates from continent to continent was exactly what you're saying. I think the biggest problem people have with traveling is getting over the fear of the unknown. Because once you go over that, you get over that, you'll push your. Why wouldn't people want to go visit Pakistan? Why wouldn't people want to go visit Kenya and Africa and things like that? Because of what reason? Once they figure out it's doable and it's not as bad as they thought, I think most people would travel way more. I think maybe almost 90% more than what they're doing now. Most people are limited because of what they're afraid of, which is they just don't know. Would you agree with that, Shafat?
I completely, completely agree with that, And I have to say, Dr. Panas, you have a beautiful heart. You seem to be a very kind person. It seems like you've been through a lot. You paved your way up. You hustled it up. And at the same time, you've been blessed. You're somebody who carry a lot of prayers. Um, because you have this beautiful experience of touching humanity and kissing its soul. And that's rare. I haven't seen it with a lot of places, I'll be honest. I connect with people at a level of who they are in terms of their integrity, their heart, their nature. You can't change someone's nature, someone's honesty. You can't push someone to lie. If someone's truthful, they'll always be truthful. If someone feels the responsibility and acts responsibly, they'll always do that for the rest of their lives. And so is true for the opposite. So, when entrepreneurs, founders, they come to us and they're seeking investment, I actually look at the person I want to deal and do business with more than the deal. Because the deal or the go-to-market strategy or their investment structure or their UI, UX or business acumen or operational excellence or ops and recruitment strategy or financial strategy or cash flows, even if they don't match, we can always change, right?
There's a system to it.
The whole business model can be changed. It could be completely opposite of what you earlier thought. And we've done that. But that person, that founder, that founding team, those co-founders, that beautiful bond, that band of brothers and sisters, that's a rare combination. You don't get it. Or that one person, you don't get it. That is treasure. So when I spoke about the mafia and the family system, I look at the person first and then the skill set. A lot of people look at the skill set first and the person later. Why? It's the people. If Bangladesh is Bangladesh, or Kenya is Kenya, or if there's violence in Congo, there's nothing wrong with Congo as a geography. There's something wrong with the people out there. There's some bad people there. And there are some good people there. And we need to do something about it. It could be okay, 2012, nobody knew there would be a war in Syria. Yemen happened right in front of my own eyes. Shocked. Iraq happened in front of my eyes. Afghanistan happened in front of my eyes. Kuwait war happened in front of my eyes. It was just another day. Just another day, just another morning. Ukraine war, have it in front of our own eyes, right? They just had another day, right? And then something happens, and suddenly there is blackout, terror of war, displacement, migration of people, no food, no water, women becoming widows and men becoming single parents and children becoming orphans. You don't know where the next bullet is going to come from and who's going to hit. It's fear. Do you think that traumas, we cannot have those traumas? Even if somebody doesn't attack us, it could be an earthquake, it could be a volcano eruption, it could be a climate change something, it could be a hurricane or whatever, or tornado, we're done. Back to zero. So it's important that today at your podcast, we do discuss that why I should be humble, why the heart of people matter most. I could be a corporate guy. I'm a corporate guy, but I'm not an evil guy. There's discipline, There are laws, there are certain KPIs, there's a certain level of hard work and intelligence required to live a living, to be competitive, right? But at the same time, a lot of my competitors are my very good friends, you know. But when we're out in the open, hell yeah, we compete, you know, and we laugh and we get inspired from each other. Dr. Finance, we operate in an industry, both marketing, advertising, and investments. We're together as the top few competitors and that ecosystem that we create. We are actually raising the bar for each other
Mm,
and raising the standards. And inevitably, that's a service to that business sector.
that's brilliant. Thank you, Shafaat. Appreciate you sharing this. And I think this was a great message that everyone needed to hear. Shafaat, moving on to the next question. So we'll figure about a minute to 2 minutes each on these questions. What are the best ways for someone to maximize the money they allocate on advertising? So maybe you can give maybe a minute worth of some of your best tips. You have a certain budget. What's the best way to go about that?
You know, every business is unique because every business has, if a business doesn't have a unique selling proposition or a certain brand value proposition or a real competitive edge, you're not a business. Now, the moment you have a point of differentiation or a unique competitive edge, this means that your brand marketing advertising strategy has to be different from the rest of the competition or the rest of the industry, which means that you need to be bold, you need to be different, the same strategy does not apply to you because you're not a 100% replica of your competition. You're different. Now, therefore, it depends on few things. What stage of the business you are? Are you literally starting out and looking for brand awareness? How much funding you have? How much investments you have? So when you talk about creating a brand identity, brand guidelines, creating a basic proper website, your corporate profiles, your company brochures, your launch campaign, all of that is investment. But after when you've done the investment, you need to check, was it a magnet? Is your product magnet? Is sellable? Is your marketing advertising tying up with what resonates with the customer? And is it all properly stitched with your sales and operations and your financial objectives? And all of this has to be tied together. So if that doesn't tie in together well, and it doesn't make financial acumen or financial sense, definitely you're doing something wrong somewhere. And therefore, many times when people come to us, and many agencies go out and also ask the client, sir, what's your budget? What nonsense. The agency should actually help define the budget. They should understand what the sales are. They should understand what the market is. They should understand what the average spend in that industry. They should look at the financial health of the company. And it's the job of the marketing agency to go back and tell the client, hey guys, we think this is the budget that would actually create a dent in the market.
Yeah,
But
by the way, sorry to interrupt. You know why they ask you for your budget, right?
I do know why they ask for the budget because they want
They
to
want
look
to
at
know.
the revenues,
Yeah.
right? So majority of the advertising agencies, this is the problem. And this is why we are different. Majority of the advertising agencies, they take a 15% to 20% kickback slash commission slash whatever fee when they sell media, right?
Mm.
So if I sell you a billboard tomorrow or a building wrap in New York to a media house, so if you spend $1 million there, I'll get about $200,000 in my pocket.
Mm.
So my revenue, my profitability is dependent on how much I can push it down your throat. Okay?
Yeah.
So how could I have integrity in my consulting or the suggestions that I'm making or the media plan that I'm suggesting? I can never have integrity in that because I'll always suggest you where I make the most money. I don't care whether your brand performs or not.
Mm.
The max that you would do is kick me out, right? I'll find another one and another one. All right, or I'll try to justify something else and there's a blame game and I'll get your marketing manager or CMO kicked out. Okay, so the thing is, we need to realize that budgets have to be mutually decided. The first thing needs to be considered as an investment. If you're an entrepreneur and you say, I don't have the marketing budget or I don't have the budget to sell, you should have never started off doing a business in the first place. Because if you don't have the budgets to sell and you don't have a sales budget and you don't have a marketing budget, There's no point in doing business because these are the only two things that will bring you revenues, right? So everything else, your promotions and advertising going forward, it has to have KPIs defined. It has to have an ROI attached to your every single campaign while you're building brand awareness. So a lot of advertising agencies actually hide behind this notion, oh, we want to do this activity and sponsor this to build brand equity. Excuse me, I'm spending $500,000 to build brand equity and it won't translate into sales? So today we need to understand using money wisely, budgeting it wisely, and it's the mutual job of people who understand business, who know I put $1,000 in, I should get $100,000 of sales out of it.
I'm glad. First of all, I'm very happy about you being extremely honest about this, because that seems like, and hopefully you would elaborate more. The big problem, from what I understand, is going looking into this business, PR. When I first started building my own brand, I noticed the PR agencies were trying to charge me 5, 10 plus thousand a month, right? And that was just the starting fees. And I said, and they wouldn't give me ROI figures. And as a finance guy, that drove me crazy. So I hit the brick wall where I said, you know what? I'm going to be my own marketer. This is crazy. I'm going to learn everything they learn on my own and do it my way. And I built a giant following because of it, because social media platforms. But maybe you can confirm my early suspicions, not just for advertising. Would you also say it's for PR agencies as well? The absolute majority are operating under this model that you just talked about, where basically, they're generating a significant amount of revenue for themselves with no real justifiable ROI to their clients. And I'm saying maybe 95%.
Do you have you ever hired a security guards company for a building?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you hire a security company, the security guards guys tell you, or the insurance guys would tell you, there is no fire, there is no theft, there is no robbery, right?
Uh,
But you have to pay me $10,000 a month to make sure there is no robbery. And that in case there is a robbery, we are there to respond. So when a PR agency comes to you and tells you, I'm going to give me $10,000 a month, it's basically a security guard company that if something goes wrong and you know narrative, they're going to take care of the narrative. They're going to create the content. They're going to make sure that your reputation, your public reputation, is not tarnished. And then at the same time, they'll try to get you some releases, some media presence on certain topics, and try to position you as a brand. A lot of PR agencies, why they cannot guarantee a certain ROI in the initial stage is because PR is media business, right? And in media business, there are a lot of moving factors. One of them is how you look, how great you present yourself. Second thing is how intelligent you are and what kind of a sharpshooter you are. What kind of audiences would you attract, right? Etc., etc., etc. So you're betting, the PR agency is also betting on a client as much as a client is betting on the PR agency, because the PR agency doesn't know how this guy would perform if I put this person on Bloomberg, right? And then if he messes up, they're like, okay. And then Bloomberg is going to call the PR agency and they're like, well, what kind of people are you bringing in? Right? So it's a risk. So this is why even when we engage, we actually train first. So we do not charge for PR straightforward. We charge for training first. So we train you, we look at the entire business model, we see what are the areas that can go kind of, viral or famous, or what is newsworthy that might be picked up by the media, and what is it that you're actually doing. So there are certain PR agencies who do a great job. There are certain PR agencies who do not understand this whole thing, and all they do is, I have a database of 2,000 journalists, and I press ding, and it releases out. Somebody picks up, well and good, make few phone calls, try to request, please, please, please publish, and it gets published on blogs here and there on some papers. Now, the media, journalism, newspapers, TVs, you have to pay some people to get coverage, right? And they all have deals. So you pay them and you go on an interview, you go on a one-on-one, you go on a one-page feature, or you pay for the title cover, right? So it really depends that are you at that level of business? Do you have something so profound to offer that you put $15,000 or $30,000 to be on the cover page of Forbes, right? If you have $50,000 and you put $30,000 just to be on the title page of Forbes, you're left with $20,000. Not a wise decision. So it's good when a person has substance, Dr. Anthony, or when you have substance, when you're real, and then when you talk, when you write, or when you appear, people will flock at you to say, hey, Dr. Finance, we need you here. So it has great content, comes from practical life experience. And fake content, you can be famous for a while, you can be entertainer, but you may not be someone that a PR agency or real audiences would love to pick on or will build a relationship with. So for this answer, all I would say is originality, originality, and originality. Be original. Do not try to fake it until you make it, especially when you're trying to expose yourself in PR.
Thank you, Shafaat. It's a brilliant, brilliant response. Shafaat, next question: is branding important for entrepreneurs, and why or why not? Why is branding important for entrepreneurs?
Are you talking about personal branding?
Yeah, personal branding.
Personal branding, the moment you shake hands with someone or somebody hears your voice on a podcast or on Clubhouse or anybody who reads your profile, is written on your forehead who you are, right here. For smart people, it takes a second to understand where is this guy coming from, and after those 5 seconds, all that they're doing is validating
your suspicion.
Let's put it like this. So, it's important to understand that if you have a business and you have a personal brand, I always recommend brand and market your business before then you market yourself. Because when you market yourself, people are going to ask you, "Hey, Shafaat, great to see you. Well, you got so much followers. I love your style. I love your posts. I love all that you say. By the way, what's your business?" And my business website sucks. My personal brand goes down. So first build a business. First achieve something. First be something. First have some substance, right? Then build a personal brand. So entrepreneurs who have just started out and they haven't really delivered anything to the world except for an idea, it's okay to have a LinkedIn profile. It's okay to show up on certain conferences and post your stuff, but I think it's too early for you to create a dramatic personal brand and invest thousands of dollars trying to become famous. And understand what are the objectives of your personal branding. So personal branding works great if your business is consulting, coaching, or if you're self-employed, in other words. So if you're self-employed, so it is you who's the business, right? You're the service provider. There's a very thin line between you and your business because everybody has to come to you as an accountant, as a physician, as a surgeon, as a CPA, as a coach. It's you. So those businesses, personal branding is your business branding, and it has to be done profound. But generally speaking, for brick and mortars, SMEs, startups, tech businesses, or other businesses, you need to build the business for it and the personal brand later.
Yeah, because if you can always you can use your business as a pilot, like as a test pilot, make mistakes with that, and if it falls down, then okay, fine. But if you mess up your own personal brand from the beginning without doing all these initial tests of the ideas of marketing, all the concepts relevant to an entrepreneur, then you don't get a second chance with your own personal brand. You can do it for other businesses. They can die and be recreated or build a new one. But you can't build a new one of you, right? You get one shot.
Absolutely. No, that's a great way to look at it. You're right. You get one shot, but yeah, there's PR crisis, there's personal branding crisis. But then, you come out. I mean, if you look at politicians, right? They always have a personal branding crisis. Somebody's shouting against them, right? But they've got to take skin. Somebody, they themselves say, oh, this guy is this guy is this guy is this. And then 2 months later, they're having a drink together.
Right. Thank you, Shafat. Great response. All right, Shafat, is brand now here's approaching it from a different angle. And I'll be clear. So yeah, I am talking about personal branding. Let me fill that question. Is personal branding important for, I said entrepreneurs before. Now the question is for employees. So not every employee will convert to become an entrepreneur. Maybe they'll try it, maybe they'll not. Some people will be lifelong employees, like my grandfather, for example. He died. Well, most of my grandparents died broke. My one grandfather was an employee working in a factory, a dye factory, and he was an employee his whole life. But is personal branding important for people who will be that person, will be an employee for most of their life? Do they even need to build a personal brand?
You know, um, if you want to become an entrepreneur compared to an entrepreneur, you do need a personal brand. People like people who are successful. Your chances to grow, your chances to hop, switch to another job are definitely increased if you have a solid personal brand, even as an employee. So I would highly recommend that employees must, and those who are on a 9 to 5 job, must create their personal brands because, as risky as it is to be an entrepreneur, as risky as it is to be laid off, right?
Yeah.
So if you do have a personal brand and if you've invested in your personal branding, you do have a cushion to be self-employed for a while until and unless you hop on another 9 to 5 and with a secure income. But if you don't have a personal brand, you can never provide those skill set or services on a freelance basis, which you would have otherwise. So a lot of people, when they're on jobs, they think everything is cool, everything is fine. So the 11,000 employees or 18,000 people prior from Meta or elsewhere, had they have a personal brand, they won't be whining today. They should be quickly picked up by people like myself, even that, oh, you work at Meta, come on in. I've got this startup, I've got this tech, I've got that, I've got this. Do that for us.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Shafat. Appreciate that. It's a good point. What is better to be branded personally or brand your company's name? Now, let me preface this question. So we've had an interesting variety of people on this podcast that, for example, the founder of Reebok, we had a guy who founded, well, he didn't found Joe Gold's gym, but he brought it to the biggest franchise gym in the world, largest franchise. And then the episode right before this, we've had Mitzi Perdue. Now, Mitzi Perdue was kind of in the middle there. Her father was actually the founder of Sheraton Hotels, and her husband was the late Frank Perdue, who started one of the biggest chicken business in the world, Perdue. She had different scenarios because her father's last name was Henderson, and he could have been Mr. Sheridan, but he changed the name to something else. Her husband, on the other hand, kept the last name and became famous, Perdue, Frank Perdue, right? So here we have an interesting hybrid of scenarios. What's your thoughts? Should they brand personally or the company's name? Which one should they spend more time with?
There is no magic formula to this, to be honest. It's a case-to-case scenario, sector-to-sector scenario. If I look at Disney, was it people learning about Disney first, or was it Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Daffy Duck that became famous? Right. Was it Aladdin that became famous or Batman that became famous before anything else was learned about? How many people knew, on the contrary, how many people knew who is the CEO of Sony back in the 90s? Or how many people know who was this chairman or founder of Gold Star, which later on turned out to be Sharp? Right. How many people know the name of the CEO of BlackBerry or the founder of BlackBerry? Everybody knows Steve Jobs. Nobody knows BlackBerry. If we do a random check and tell who were the last 3 CEOs of Nokia or Ericsson or currently serving Ericsson or even Honda or Bentley or Rolls-Royce, how many people know who's the CEO or even the founder of Rolex? What was the name of the founder of Rolex or Hershey's?
Milton Hershey.
Yeah. So,
Only because I lived there, that's why.
Yeah. So there's a whole story to it as well. So, the thing is, personal branding works, especially if you're in a more self-employed kind of business where your business is closely related to you for deal making, etc., etc. But business branding is extremely important. Some of the largest companies like Sequoia Capital or Accenture, their top people haven't spent a lot of money on personal branding, but they are big brands, you know. So you run, not everybody's on Shark Tanks becoming a celebrity angel investor, right? There are people who want to build that personal brand, that clout, which is good for them because of that, they get some great opportunities too. But then another strategy is that you build such a huge brand like Sequoia that everybody just applies to you and everybody goes through a process. So solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or founders, they love to be recognized and they should be recognized. And they should have the leverage to speak their heart, like myself. I like to speak, I like to expose myself a little bit with a lot of caution. And I only show up in places where I know the person who's going to take my interview, or just like yourself, we're my friends, where we really give something back to our audience, to our listeners, and we could really change some lives. My purpose for personal branding is only this, but I used to do a lot of personal branding at some point of time of my career. When I opened up my investment firm, I wanted the people to know that yes, I have an investment firm. This is what it does. This is who I am. When I go to any new market and I launch my office, I do both business branding and personal branding. That is important. People need to know people. But then it's a threshold where personal branding, so it's like this. You start together if these are 2 graphs. So you start from here, right? So you have business brand and personal brand going parallel. You lift your business up. Your personal brand automatically starts going up because people want to know who's the CEO, right? And then at one point of time, when you've achieved something, your personal brand goes beyond the business brand. Okay? In other cases, you start off with a personal brand, and from those relationships, you build a business brand, and suddenly your business brand becomes so famous that you appoint another CEO and another CEO, and you are operating at a very different level. So both strategies work.
Thank you, Shafaat. And I think an example of what you're saying is Hilton versus Sheraton. Like, so Mitzi's father is Henderson. No one knows Henderson, right? But Hilton's, everyone knows the Hiltons because of the Hilton Hotel brand name, right? So yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Shafaat. Shafaat, next question, maybe a minute or less. What are your criteria for selecting your next investment?
it should be unique. It should be scalable, monetizable, solve a real problem, a pain point that people are urgently dying to paying money for, and is affordable, is done better than it has ever been done better before from a process perspective. It's a product or a service that can be communicated and could be understood by your target market in less than 10 seconds.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Shafat. Shafat, next question is actually two questions combined. They feed off each other. Is it more difficult to manage an international business rather than a domestic business? What are the unique challenges of each? Maybe a minute or less.
A business which is domestic is because your mindset is domestic, and a business that's international is because your mindset is global. This is about it. So challenges are the same, very much the same. I mean, how different it is to run a coffee shop in US compared to running a coffee shop in Dubai. It's the same. So it's just the management. I think it's more of a mindset. It's more about the systems, delegation, power of delegation, and creating a structure. When you're out to build something, you can build a ship that can float, go farther, or the same principles, you can build a boat, but it will be domestic. Well, ultimately, both of them floats. But if you're a shipbuilder, you'll actually build a ship because that's what your vision is.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shafat. Shafat, what are the best tips for someone looking for funding for their business from angel investors with no money down? Maybe a minute or less. So no money down, meaning like to navigate, maybe using their personal brand as a leverage. My mentor, Sharon Lecter, her husband, Michael Lecter, wrote a book on this, Other People's Money. He was the guy who helped put Rich Dad Poor Dad together, international law. So using other people's money to do that, or no money down.
Okay, I can't speak for everybody else out there, but I'll speak for myself and my company. We do not invest in any business where the founders or the entrepreneur doesn't have skin in the game financially. And similarly, if the founder or the entrepreneur comes to us totally broke and says, "Oh, I've invested all 100% and I'm now in the streets," we understand that this guy doesn't know how to even manage their own personal finances because he went broke and he was so naive to put all of his money in one basket, all of his eggs in one basket, and he crashed and now he's begging. We do respect people who say, "Well, I've invested 20% of my savings in this business, but I do have a family or whatever, and I have to make a living as well. So I do have a buffer for the next 7-8 months to live, but I'm not broke. I can write on my own too, but I'm looking for your money to exponentially grow this business and just take a leap forward instead of me walking forward like a tortoise." And that's the businesses we understand. So, frankly speaking, any business requires capital and some kind of investment, be it your time investment. And if you value your time, you can have a valuation of it around your money. And it requires telephone calls, utility bills, some place where you sit, be it your home or be it outside. There is a cost to everything. There's a cost of living, there's a cost of breathing. So you need to incorporate that cost, and that requires capital. So if anybody comes around and tells you, "Okay, you can start a business, I'm going to teach you how to start a business without investment," that's total BS. Every business requires investment. And a great way is do a job, save some money, park your own money into your business, take the risk, make the investors confident that you are in it and you are in it for good and you've got skin in the game. That drives confidence of investors. And that's when investors would invest. And that's my advice to founders. The last thing I want to say is when you sit in front of a VC or an angel investor, he might not be a huge celebrity sitting on The Apprentice or the Shark Tank. But let me tell you this. If someone has made money and they're successful, and they're more successful than you in one or the other parameters, especially financial parameters, they're smart and they've done something right. So please do not try to fool your potential partner. That's important.
Yeah.
Do not try to fool your potential partner. It's just like you hook up with a woman and you show her fake, fake, fake. You end up slipping a ring in her finger and she finds out everything about you. What's she going to do? You do not lie to your partners. Be open, be truthful, be honest, have integrity, and get your valuation done right, and be real, be practical. You need to understand that these guys are not stupid who have got a huge deal flow coming on their table every day like myself. So frankly speaking, I do shaft a lot of founders and entrepreneurs when they come on my table and they try to fool us. I really give them a shafting.
Deservingly so. Thank you, Shafaat. Awesome response. What are your toughest struggles that you've been through? Now, I know you've covered a few already, but this could be a deep question. So you know what? If maybe just one of your toughest, maybe you haven't expanded on.
Fine. The toughest struggle is when every time I've lost love or somebody I loved, it's always struggling. Yeah. Everything else is okay.
Thank you, Shafaat. Shafaat, why is learning about international business important? Maybe a minute or less.
International business gives you exposure, and trading, which is the oldest profession and business of this world, is based on international traveling and international business. So you pick up products from spices from India and put them in Arab or bring them to the West, spices business, or the Silk Route. It is international business. International business has created the world we live in, and it brings you exposure. If you don't have exposure, you can't trade. You can't create value propositions, right? It is exposure that I'm sitting here today and I can order something in Dubai, which is made in the United States of America from Amazon, right? That's international exposure. So if you're not looking at international business, you're not looking at a business at all as of today's world, in the age of internet and e-commerce.
Thank you, Shafaat. Brilliant, brilliant response. Next question, maybe a minute or less. What is the educational value of traveling for humanity? So we covered an interesting conversation earlier, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, maybe a minute or less. If everyone can travel in this world, I mean, it would probably make the world a little bit better, but I'd just love to hear your thoughts.
If you're traveling for vacations and saying, oh, I'm going to spend $20,000 on a vacation, you're not a business leader. You're more like, I don't know what. Business and leisure needs to go together. So, for example, when I take my kids out for vacations, I always have business meetings alongside. I make sure that if I'm spending $30,000 on my kids' vacations in Switzerland, I'm making $60,000 out of the same trip. There are people who buy on Black Friday that are consumers, average people, but real businessmen, they are not busy buying and shopping, they're busy selling on a Black Friday sale. And that's the difference. So traveling is extremely important. Traveling gives you exposure, traveling gets you connections, traveling gives you understanding, and most importantly, traveling makes you a human because you try to understand humans.
I like that part. That is so, so true. All right. Thank you, Shafaat. Is love the binding force for this planet? Maybe a minute or less.
Is what a
Love.
binding force?
Love, Love.
Love is the seed of creation. Everything that's created is based on love. That's the seed.
Do you think that's the emotion, the force that's keeping this planet together as a whole?
Everything is love. Soul is love. And everything is a soul.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shafaat. Shafaat, why do you like Clubhouse? Maybe 30 seconds or less.
I was introduced to Clubhouse by a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Atif. He's a double PhD, works for NASA. And he said, Shafaat, he knows me for quite a while. And he was like, Shafaat, let me introduce you to Clubhouse. You have to be there. You have to be there. I was like, okay. So I went on there. The next day I called him. I was like, Dr. Atif, this is a total bloody time waste. I don't have time to listen and just wait up the stage and getting unmute and the drama. He said, Shafaat, I promise you, just stick around for a week, get your chance to speak up, and trust me, you're going to enjoy it. And this is when my father died. It was just 4 months that my father passed away. So I did have some time. I wanted to reconnect, to open up. There was COVID, etc., etc. So, like, okay, let's explore. So immediately, instantly, I made some very good connections with some VCs, with some investors, with a very good community. I made some very good connections with founders. I chose to be in business rooms only. I don't do political rooms. I sometimes do spiritual rooms, But I do not like rooms where there are debates, bad debates like political debates, religious debates, and discriminatory stuff. I don't go there. I just do business, business, business. We understood Clubhouse as a funnel. I think it helped us create a personal brand too. It helped us create a beautiful community. I made some very good friends like yourself, and I just fell in love with that app where we can talk more than we can chat on LinkedIn, for example, or Twitter. They all have their pros and cons, but I think Clubhouse is really amazing. As an advertising agency, I go on Clubhouse with my entire team, and we have a proper strategy to funnel clients, and we made a lot of money through Clubhouse. Also, we have invested in a number of startups on Clubhouse. The founders that we met in different pitch clubs rooms, and even in my own club, the entrepreneurs, et cetera, et cetera. And most importantly, it's a lot of learning. You meet some great people, you hop on a Zoom call, you get to know them better. They'll help you, they'll assist you, you can help them. You can put people on jobs. I've met people from so many different countries where they could really start a business from $10,000, and I give them $10,000 and they're now doing pretty well, and that makes me happy.
That's awesome. What's your favorite rooms on Clubhouse?
Um, as I said, it's anything that has to do with entrepreneurship, business, brand marketing, investments, um, technology. I'm not a tech guy, so I don't understand tech, but I still run tech. But I'm not a tech guy. My partner, she's very techie. A couple of other partners are very techie. But I love rooms which are about positivity. There's an intention of every conversation. And if the intention of that conversation is not to ridicule someone or tarnish someone's reputation or hurt someone or speak against someone, and I like rooms which are peaceful, which are a safe space, where it's more community driven. So any of that, I love such rooms, and I do some music rooms too. Sometimes I go on Clubhouse and I sing a song or I listen to someone singing or music. So yeah, it's interesting.
Thank you, Shafat. All right, Shafat. So basically, we got template questions here. Questions I've asked everyone from Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre to Les Brown and Dr. Dennis Waitley, all the top superstars on this platform, on this podcast here. Basic questions about different aspects of finance and networking. So the first question is, what can one book change the world? We'll start with that one. Maybe 30 seconds to a minute each.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Anything else?
Quran has changed the world. Bible has changed the world. Torah has changed the world. And frankly speaking, for some people, one book have changed their own personal worlds in so many ways. So yes, it can change the world.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Shafat. What role has networking played in your life?
Networking is inevitable. That's your relationship with the universe. There's a reason we are together in 2022. There's a reason you were born, I was born, and we just happened to meet in this era, in this time. So networking is inevitable. Relationships and people that you meet in your lifetime, they have a purpose. If I was born 1,000 years ago, I would have met a different Dr. Finance, or Dr. Finance would have met a very different Shafaat, an Arab, maybe, a shepherd, right? So we need to respect that. We need to respect networking. We need to understand the omens that the universe gives you, why you meet people, who you meet, what's the reason for it, and try to explore that underlying reason before you head into a transaction.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shafat. Is mentoring important, and who are some of your mentors?
Mentoring is important, but mentoring, the way I look at it, is more like a master-disciple relationship. The mentoring of today's world doesn't really make sense to me, because mentors, number one, mentors must have some kind of performance metrics as well for them. Mentors is not just that you come and you listen and you go and that's about it. Mentors are someone who look at you exclusively, you as a person, you as a universe, and then work on it out of their sheer love, out of their passion, out of the way they love you, to be honest. And that's what mentoring is all about. Those mentors are very hard to find these days. But if you do have a mentor, You need to be the disciple. You need to surrender your wishes, your bad habits, your you know, consistent stuff that you do. You need to listen to them, and they should have control over you, and that is how you actually excel and proceed. And sometimes, as the mentors don't even say a word, but they just look at you with love, and your cup is full.
Mm, that's brilliant. Thank you, Shafat. Shafat, finance podcast won't be complete without talking about books. Do you have any favorite financial books, if any? Maybe that includes business, investing, money books of any sorts. Any financial books that you read you'd like to mention?
No, I'm a more visual person, you know. So I've heard women are more audio, men are more visual. So I'm more visual. So I would rather, I can recommend some movies like, you know, The Spotlight, or, you know, some of those business movies that are out there. The Founder recently came up. The going down of Boeing, for example. So there are a lot of case studies, a lot of business movies out there, you know, short selling. There was a movie on short selling or something. Um, I think those are the movies that one should watch. And frankly speaking, Godfather Trio, as it is one of the best business movies I've watched, more than a mafia movie, because they were running a business. So if you do and search about Pablo Escobar, you search about, you know, there's so many businesses. So I would rather recommend a movie compared to books. I don't read a lot of books.
That's okay. Yeah. Did you ever read Think and Grow Rich
I
by
skimmed
Napoleon Hill?
through it. I skimmed through it. My problem is that yes, I do read some books. I skim through them. I used to read a lot of books, but I'm one of those reader who read it with a lot of critique,
Mm.
and that is one of the reasons that I'm writing my two books.
Yeah, I'm actually, believe it or not, the same way. Some people might read the same book about 10 times faster than me, but I'm so critical, I have to go through every line by line. And I struggle with that, but you actually learn more, I think. And that worked for me when I figured out that was actually a skill set that I can look and analyze each page. I just have to speed it up a little bit. So
That's fantastic. That's great. You work in detail because you're a numbers person, you know, and you should always work in detail. I'm a bit reckless here, to be honest.
thank you, Shafat. I appreciate that. Shafat, next question. Do we need money to survive?
Of course, 100%. You need money to survive, and having money is also a source of peace, and peace even in your relationships, you know. If look, you could either be a contributor in a society, or you could either be a liability for a society. And contributor, as our prophet said, the giving hand is always better than the hand which is receiving. So try to be the giver, and that comes from money.
And as an extension of that question, do we need finance? Is finance important? Finance being the science of finance. Is finance necessary for everyone?
Absolutely, 100%. Finance is the basics, and I teach my children, who's one is 10 and one is 8, that I taught them about finance like when they were 6 and they were 8, you know. And I tell them how banking works. I make sure I tell them how credit works, credit cycles work, because that's the system we live in.
Great response. Thank you, Shafat. Shafat, a few more questions left. We'll wrap it up. Figure about 30 seconds to a minute each. How important is having a purpose in business? And what is your purpose?
My purpose in business is very simple. The best philanthropy is to create jobs. That's my purpose. And without a mission, and without you falling in love with that mission, there is no driving force. If your driving force is to make $20,000 a month, you'll literally stop there. And then ultimately, because you would not grow, your business would die. And then you'll be again having another mission, which is, oh, I was able to make $20,000 a month, so now I should be able to make $35,000 a month. And you're going to restart and waste another 10 years of your life. So life moves in like cycles of 5 years. And some slow people who are turtles and tortoises, it goes in 10 years. People like myself, it goes in 2 years. So within 2 years, I figure out, is this going to be a hit or a shit? And you know, you need to move, you need to be fast, you need to achieve big, and let's be honest, you only achieve when you move together.
Mm,
Alone, you can't do anything. The
brilliant.
universe is independent. It's not
Thank you.
independent.
Sorry. Thank you, Shafat. Appreciate that. Two more questions left. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so, and why?
First of all, to be honest, I don't even know if I've seen the next 10 years, or whether I'll be alive or I won't be. I don't know what the hell's going to happen to this world in the next 10 years. But if given a chance, 10 years from now, I just want to accomplish one thing. Every street I walk through, or every heart that my voice or my hand or my presence touches, should be healed. I should be a source of comfort, convenience, help, healing from every street I pass and every heart I connect with.
That's beautiful. I love that, Shafat. Do you plan on maybe making movies or more books or any of that stuff?
I do plan to make a movie after my books, but the problem is there are people like me who watch movies over 4 days, so I'd rather thinking to create short reels now.
I don't
You
know how
know,
you got through The Godfather. That's a 10-hour movie. If an
yeah,
hour takes you 4 days.
that's when I was a teenager, I mean,
Yeah.
all the time. But had The Godfather been released recently over the last 16 or 15 years, I'm sure I would have never watched it.
That's funny. The God Shafat.
Oh no, hell no. God is God, and Shabbat is just a speck of dust, to be honest.
All right, thank you, Shafat. Appreciate that. What would you like to be your legacy to this world? Final question. So, when you're gone, you want everyone to remember you for one thing. Like, what would that be?
He loved and he was a beloved.
Mm, Thank you, Shafat. Shafat, I want to just conclude here and say thank you. I'm honored to have you here today. Appreciate you agreeing to this. We're going to have an incredible Clubhouse event, folks. Check it out. It will be next Friday, November 25th, between 7 and 9 p.m. Shafat will be speaking. It's Eastern Time. That's 2022, in case you're listening to this 1,000 years from the future. This event would have happened on that date. And Shafat will be our main guest speaker in the Finance Club. So check it out. And I want to thank you again, Shafat, for your presence here today and for all you do in our community. And I'd like to leave the floor for you. Anything you'd like to add, tell the audience about yourself or any concluding remarks. The floor is yours. Thank you, Shafat.
First of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Finance. You've been such an amazing friend of mine for the last over 1.5 years on Clubhouse and beyond. And you're such a great person who's investing so much time on humble people like myself and giving them the privilege to be part of your podcast and your Clubhouse room. I don't think I deserve all of this, but it's out of your graciousness to help us to let our voice be heard to your amazing, amazing, beautiful audience and your amazing community that's taken years for you to build. And you've trusted my voice and my humble experiences, and you found them worthy enough to be shared with those people. So I'm truly humbled to all those listening, and especially to you. My closing remarks would be never hurt someone. And what I live for is I don't meet people to get money off them or create a transaction or make them my clients or customers. My ultimate aim is that whoever I meet, they pray for me when I leave. So I'm here in this world only to collect prayers. And I believe very strongly in being truthful and universal love. And we need to forego actively. We should never lie and we should never hate. And it's an active process to tell ourselves no hating, no hate speech, no not hate anyone, do not be jealous from anyone, and do not lie. Do not fake it. And always try to push yourself forward to be truthful, to be loving. And it's not that you forgive someone. You forgive someone in a way that the other person doesn't even feel ashamed, right? But once you forgive, you need to forget. And you need to forgive them in a way that they also forget. And that is the power of love. That is what nurtures people. that is what nurtures the universe. And the last thing is that our universe does not operate in independence, it's interdependent. So understand the power of interdependence and harness that power for your advantage, for you to nourish yourself and others around you. And with this, I'm truly grateful.
Thank you, Shafaat. Appreciate it. Shafaat, where can they find out more information about you? You're on your social media platforms, your website.
Yep. So I have a website. It's my name, shafaathashmi.com. You guys can go there. My socials, it's Instagram is Shafaat Hashmi. Again, my Facebook is Shafaat Hashmi. My LinkedIn is Shafaat Hashmi. My Twitter is Shafaat Hashmi. So I'm truly grateful to my parents and my grandparents for giving me a unique name. I got all of them right.
That's awesome. Thank you, Shafaat. Appreciate you. Appreciate you giving us a tour today, by the way, of your office. That's awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Shafaat. All right, so Shafaat, we're going to conclude here, folks. This is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance, and you've been listening to the Dr. Finance Live podcast with Shafaat Hashmi. Definitely check him out on all his websites, his website he mentioned, and all his social media platforms. And don't forget, next Friday on the Clubhouse is going to be incredible. We got a 6-hour stage, but Shafaat will be there for about 2 hours or so as the main guest speaker. So definitely check it out. The first opportunity to be firsthand with him live. With that said, folks, thank you again for being here. Check out the website, drfinance.info. I'm going to post the podcast information on there, as well as blast it out to YouTube and all the podcast directories. And then, of course, if you want to learn finance, folks, I wrote my first book for my finance students about 10 years ago. It was right here. It's called The Necessity of Finance. And from there, I moved on to the next concept, the most important lessons in economics and finance. And I thought to myself, it's so important, finance, but what is the most important lessons over the past 2,000 years and 2,000 years from now? And that's where it is, folks. 218 principles. And then my last book, The Survival of the Richest, a 500+ page book, took the concepts of all this stuff and really basically expanded on some of the greatest scientific arguments out there. So, and I think you would appreciate this, Shafaat, on evolution and things like that. So with that said, folks, appreciate you guys being here. Thanks again. We're going to see you on the next episode. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Bye-bye now. Thank you, Shafaat. Shafaat, if you can hang out just 1 second, I'm going to close it. Thanks again, folks.